We want to start by saying thank you to Mrs. Dominitz, my faithful assistant, who's had Corona all week, and she first day out of quarantine, she came right into the office. Baruch Hashem, she's an incredible shliach Chaim. Okay, this our Torah learning is dedicated in merit of Mr. Richard Bashner in honor of his birthday. Mazal Tov and blessings for many years of good health and happiness and success, material and spiritual. The same way, we're blessing everybody. We're on the Eve of Rosh Chodesh. All right, please, before we start talking about the text, let's talk about, let's preface by speaking a little bit about Rosh Chodesh. This Monday night and Tuesday night and Wednesday are the 30th day of Shvat and the first day of Adar. The Gemara says, "Nichnas Adar marbim besimcha." The simple explanation is that when Adar comes in, we have to increase in happiness. Everybody has to increase in happiness. What's the happiness of the month of Adar? I'm sure everybody knows. I'm just going to say it quickly, that Adar is the month when Purim is. Purim, we had actually a member of the family of Amalek. His name was Haman, and he was a minister to Achashverosh, the leader, the ruler of the entire known world at that time, Achashverosh, and he hated the Jewish people. Specifically, he hated one person. He hated Mordechai. It's the whole story in itself. We'll talk about the story of Purim when we get closer to Purim. It's about 6 weeks from now. Excuse me. But Haman wanted to destroy the Jewish people, and he knew the Jewish people are close to God, and he knew that not always is God happy with Jewish people. So what did he do? Is he threw a lottery, and he asked God which is the best month to destroy the Jewish people, and he came up with the month of Adar, and he was so happy because why? He knew that God was guiding him in the right way. God forbid, but that's what he thought. Because what happened in Adar? Moses died. Moses, the leader of the Jewish people, died. And since Haman's big problem was with the leader of the Jewish people at that time, his name was Mordechai. Therefore, this was a sign to him that God was leading him in the right way, and he would succeed in his nefarious plan to destroy the Jewish people. He didn't know a simple fact, though, that we learn from the death from Moshe, our teacher, that when a person passes away and is born on the same day, and what day was that? The 7th day of the month of Adar. When the Jewish people are born, when a person is born, and not only is born, not only passes away, he is born on the same day. That is the biggest sign that they are a righteous person, that God is with them through and through. And so the whole thing was a setup, right? It was a setup that it was the worst possible month for Haman to choose to destroy the Jewish people. And in the end, the Jewish people were successful. We'll speak about the whole story later. That's the reason why the month of Adar is the happiest month of the year, because it's the month of the Jewish people overcoming all of their enemies, all of the obstacles in terms of the service of Hashem. There's much more to say about it. We're not going to speak about it now. This year, like I said at the end of the shir last week, is a unique thing, and I can't stress it too much. There are, starting from Tuesday night, from Tuesday night and Wednesday is the first day of the month of Adar. This year, because it's a leap year, in the solar leap year, we add a day to the month of February every, I don't know how many years. No, that's not the case of a Jewish leap year. The Jewish leap year, we add a month, 7 out of 19 years. And this year is a leap year. So what month do we add? You guessed it, the happiest month of the year, the month when God is with us in the purest way, when God helps us overcome all of our enemies. So there's 2 months of Adar. And sometimes Jewish months have 29 days, and sometimes Jewish months have 30 days. Okay, it all depends on the problem the issue, not the problem. The reason why there are leap years is because the Torah says that this Passover has to come in the spring. And so we use it so to correct the lunar calendar so that Passover will always come in the springtime. The rabbis put together the calendar for the next until the year 6000. This is the year 5782. That means for the next 218 years, the calendar is already set and has been set for 2000 years already. That always Passover to come out in the spring. That's the requirement. Okay, and so, but it happens that again in this year there are welcome, Levi. This year there are 2 months of Adar, as I said. Each one has 30 days, 60. I'm sure you all remember from last week, but the people who weren't here last week, I'm going to say again. What is this idea of 60? It says there's a beautiful Gemara. If I said it last week, and I just tell me if I said it, I won't repeat myself again. A beautiful Gemara. It says there are certain things in this world that are the interface between spiritual and physical. Fire in this world is the interface between fire, God forbid, in Gehenna, in purgatory. And it says that poppy seeds and honey is the interface between is akin to what the manna tasted in the desert, and sleep is the interface between to death, and dreaming is the interface of prophecy. When it says interface, what does it say? Each of those things is 1/60th of the whole thing. Sleep is 1/60th of death. But poppy seeds and honey is 1/60th of the manna tastes like. So dreaming is 1/60th of prophecy, right? Okay, so 60 then is something whole. And even let's say you have a pot with 60 cups of chicken soup, and even if 1 cup of milk and meat is forbidden, but if 1 cup of milk fell into the pot of meat, would it be kosher or not kosher? Who knows? And the answer is it would be kosher, because the 60 times nullifies even the 1 whole cup of milk. So it's the same thing, a famous idea. The same thing with these 60 days of Adar. If you're not understanding me, ask me questions. These 60 days of Adar have the ability to negate, to nullify all of the negative things that in our life that because there's 60 days of the joyous days of Adar, okay, and they nullify any negative particles in our life. But there's a condition. The condition is a person has to be happy. They not only have to be happy, they have to increase in being happy as much as they can. And we're going to discuss that. It's one of the things that we're going to learn today. I just want to say, what's the biggest obstacle to being happy? I don't know about you, my friends. I'm going to talk about myself. When does our evil inclination jump on us? The first thing is if a person is not feeling well. Second thing, if a person is tired. The third thing is if a person's in perhaps a negative environment. But of all those things, the place where the evil inclination is most on the watch out for is to find something that we're not happy about. If a person didn't fulfill a particular commandment in the best possible way, or even if he didn't fulfill it at all, let's tell the truth. Let's say, what happens if a person really, really messed up? Okay, so the first thing that happens is a person's evil inclination will jump on the person, and he'll use that as an opportunity to make the person feel that nothing that they do is good, and that they'll be miyayish, they'll give up on all the things that they're doing. And all of a sudden, this one little thing has snowballed into a person feeling, that they can't, no mitzvah can they do in an appropriate way. God forbid a person can even say, I can't take it anymore. I'm gonna, and do something ridiculous. God forbid, not any of us here, but people jump off roofs just because some little thing. Okay, so that's the challenge. Challenge is, no matter what, God doesn't dwell in a place of sadness. And a person has to, every time something negative happens, a person has to say, this is just a scheme of my negative inclination, of my evil inclination, to take me away from doing all the things that I can do. And a person has to redouble their efforts. I'm not talking to any of you, not to Daniel, not to Wendy, not to Karen, not to Ken, not to Dara, not to Chayli, or not to Lisette, not to Lydia, not to Valeria, not to Levi or Ivan. I'm talking to me. Don't let the evil inclination pull the rug out from under our feet, okay? That even if a person didn't succeed in something, that is the reason why God gives a person 60, 70, 80, 90 years of life is because they have the ability to fix the mistakes. And when they fix the mistake, that negative thing, God forbid that a person did, but that still, it's unbelievable, but that negative thing becomes the stepping stone to their higher level of completion. So that negative thing actually becomes, everybody shout it at once, a mitzvah. It becomes something positive. So we cannot let negative things hold us back. There's no value to being sad, okay, except now, there is an exception, okay? A person is supposed to, every night, it's not easy, to read my lips. I try every night and I don't always succeed. Every night a person is supposed to make an accounting of what they did during the day, what was good and what was not good, and how they can improve. And on a higher level, a person is supposed to, on Thursday nights, to look back at the whole week and to take even there were times, and I'm going to try to do it again, to keep a journal, right, of successes and failures, and how I can improve the failures. And once a month, on the eve of Rosh Chodesh, which is actually tonight is the eve of Rosh Chodesh. There are hundreds of people praying at the grave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because the eve of Rosh Chodesh is called Yom Kippur Katan, like a small Yom Kippur. On the eve of Rosh Chodesh, again, the night before Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is this month is Monday night and Tuesday night, Monday and all day Tuesday, and Tuesday night and all day Wednesday. And the eve of Rosh Chodesh is tonight. So on the eve of Rosh Chodesh, a person is supposed to think back on the last month, okay? And then obviously on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, a person is supposed to think back about the entire previous year. That's the time when a person is allowed to be sad. Okay, I'm going to say, are you all there? Is anybody awake, or you're all sleeping? Hello? Let me hear a word. So I told you, they're all sleeping.
We're all listening.
Yeah, Levi's shaking his head. Okay,
We're
thank
listening.
you.
We're
All
listening.
right, I got it. How come we're on a Zoom call, Ken? Why are you wearing a mask for? Okay.
I'm in the grocery store, in the kosher experience.
Okay, so keep experiencing kosher. We are pro experiencing kosher. Okay, so I'm going to say there's a famous Yochanan ben Zakkai is buried in Tveria. He was one of the students of Hillel. It says he never lifted his head. He would always keep his head down, because he was always focused on what he had to do. And it's very interesting. The Talmud says, again, a student of Hillel means he lived at the time of the end of the Second Temple period. Okay, so what does it mean? The story is that when he passed away, he was crying, and he said why his students asked him, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "Because I don't know which way I'm going to heaven and to hell, to Gan Eden or to Gehenna." Okay, so let's put us. Okay, so he's a very big tzaddik. Okay, and how could he think that? Okay, so all those blaring questions, and the answer that's given is an unbelievable answer. that he was so given over to doing every minute of his life what he was supposed to be doing all the mitzvahs that he was supposed to be doing. In other words, every time he had an opportunity, this idea that he didn't lift his head, he kept his head down. He never looked out of his Dalet Amos. He never looked out his 6 feet. He always was focused on what his mission was in the world. Because he was so focused on his mission in the world, he never made an accounting about whether he was succeeding or not. Right? In other words, I just said that the one of the things that the Ba'al Shem Tov encouraged is to take time out on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, to make an account of where, if we're moving ahead, if we're not moving ahead, what we can improve, what we can fix. So he was obviously 1600 years before the Ba'al Shem Tov, and he was so given over to his mission in the world that in his entire life, he lived to be in his 80s, he never thought about whether he's succeeding or not. He just completely focused on what he had to do at that minute, not wasting a second. And so therefore, when it came time for him to pass away, it was the first time he made an account. We all know how great a tzaddik he was. He for sure went to heaven, but he himself wasn't sure because he never stopped during his entire lifetime to make that account. That's the example, right? That a person shouldn't be involved the whole day in beating themselves to death, in accusing themselves of lack of success, right? That's totally the evil inclination. When is the time? Again, for a few minutes once in the evening before we go to sleep, a few minutes on Thursday nights before Shabbos, a few minutes before Rosh Chodesh tonight, and a few minutes before Rosh Hashanah. Those are the times we recommit ourselves to push ahead, and that way we're not going to let the evil inclination mess us up. Okay, so again, a person feels sadness. He says, this is just a scheme by my evil inclination to stop me from doing more commandments. Push it away and redouble your efforts to bring holiness into the world. Okay, that's it. Let's have the text.
Yeah. Okay, Rabbi, this is Ivan. I do want to say something regarding this, which I learned from my grandmother.
One second, Ivan. One second. I apologize. I should have asked any questions. I should have asked. I'm sorry I didn't. So Ivan, you can make a statement, please.
Okay, thank you. It's called, when negativity happens, you deal with it in a positive attitude way. That's the key. You're looking at whatever happens in life, you deal with it in a positive way. And I was talking to my son, Devin, yesterday, and I said something, which is, I said, I don't let life interfere with my living. And
Right.
the key is,
you don't let what? Say again. You don't let what?
I do not let life interfere with my living, which means I'm not going to change my positiveness to negative. I'm always going to be positive, because life throws all kinds of negativity to you and also positive, but we deal with everything in a positive light, that there's some reason and some positivity will happen, no matter how bleak it looks. And, and I'm not talking about World War II or Concentration, just everyday life. If we deal with it in a positive way, we're freed, we're lifted up, and we could, deal with our family, our friends, our community in an entirely positive way. And that's, I don't know if I call it happiness or not, but it's basically a more seamless path that we're putting in front of ourselves. So get rid of the cobblestones when they happen. We deal with it positively.
Absolutely. The point, and it gives again and again, Judaism actually, the only way we're supposed to serve God is with joy. There are times for feeling regret, for feeling remorse, but those have to be only exactly like Ivan said, in a productive way. If I saw a mistake was made, what do I do to fix it? How can I behave differently in the future that I won't make that same mistake again, and therefore the negative act actually took me higher, not lower. Okay, thank you very much. I have approval from the team. All right, let's look inside. We're going to what time is it? Not only do I don't even have a watch. What time is it? Okay, here we go. We're on 111a. And the Ba'al Shem Tov says like this. He says, B'Shem Rishonim. We're going to discuss what that means, B'Shem Rishonim. It's the first time we've done 111 different pieces of the Ba'al Shem Tov before. And this is the first time that it says that. We're going to explain what it means. What's a Rishon, by the way? In general, Rishonim were Torah scholars that were lived and taught and shared their teachings before the expulsion from Spain, 1492. Right, people before that time were Rishonim. After the expulsion from Spain, which was really a reorganization of the entire Jewish world at that time, so those are called Achronim, later scholars. Rishonim means earlier scholars, and Achronim means later scholars. So something that was done by a Rishon is on a little bit of a higher and a more pure level than the Achronim. Okay, you'll see, for instance, in commentaries on the Talmud, the difference between the Rishonim have a much broader perspective. Achronim, the later scholars, have a narrow. They're dealing with much more with conceptual issues, not with the big picture so much. A different headspace. Said okay. So we'll talk about what it means in a minute. So look inside, please. I'm using the same text as you are because I'm not at home and I didn't bring the sefer with us. But the sefer, I don't have the sefer with me. So it says, Mea Ba'al Shem Tov, Shem Rishonim, in the name of the earlier scholars. Ru'ui Leda, it's appropriate to know Sod Ha'achduso Yisborach. What is the secret of God's unity? In general, we're speaking here about everything. The Ba'al Shem Tov was one of the things he wanted to connect each of us to the bigger picture. Okay, there's no room for sadness. Okay, each person is connected to God the infinite. Okay, in everything that we do, we have to see God. Okay, so now that's he's speaking about in the context, in a very, very broad context of all of the commandments. Look what it says. He says, Ra'ui lida soda achdusa. We have to know the secret of God's unity, achdusa yisbarach, of God's unity. Ki b'kol mokim, in every place, shani tofes. Just 1 second. I'm interrupting myself, but I'm assuming that the English translation, at least for the first two pieces, is in the chat. Mrs. Dominitz, is that correct? Mrs. Dominitz?
Sorry, what was that?
Is the English translation of the first two pieces? Are you sharing the English translation?
I don't have it.
We did it last week. It's the same as
the first two. I'll put it out then.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Okay. So I'm translating, but you'll have the English translation in a minute. Okay, you have to know the secret of God's unity. What do you think the secret of God's unity is? What does that mean? Okay, right? The whole world is created by God. The whole world exists inside God. Okay. So in a certain sense, every aspect of the world is just godliness hidden. That's what we said. The word for world in Hebrew is olam. Olam from the word helem, hidden. That the whole world is God, is just godliness hidden. Okay, that's one way to perceive it. He's going to say something in a different way now. He says, what's the secret of God's unity? He says, Ki b'kol mokum shani tofes v'oches b'ktsas v'chelik min ha'achdus harei tofes kulo. In any place, b'kol mokum, in any place, shani tofes, that I grasp, I tofes is hold, oches and grasp, b'katsa v'chelik, the end of or a section of the unity, harei ani tofes kulo. I'm grasping all of it. Okay, and so what's an example of that? Okay, I grew up. My birthday is in Adar. Generally birthdays are celebrated in the second Adar. So my birthday is in 6 weeks, the 15th day of Adar, Shushan Purim. Okay, and I grew up with my parents had a book called The Family of Man. I don't know if everybody, maybe some of you are familiar with it, and it was trying to show the unity of people. It had a family of people in China, and a family of people in Hungary, and a family of people in the Midwest in the United States. It had people plowing a field in Siberia, and people plowing a field in all over the world, right? Showing that it had a woman nursing a baby. Universal concepts, something that everybody can relate to, something that evoked this idea of the family of man, that there's a unity among everything. Okay, we're Jewish people. Where do we find this idea of total unity, the unity of Hashem in everything? Okay, so where is it? It's in life, the life force in a person. Okay, you have the life force in an arm. You have the life force in the ear, in the eye, in the eyes, in the toe. Okay, even though the toe is as far away as could be from the eye in terms of it, but each of them has a life force in it. Okay, something that enlivens it, and not just in the eye, in the elbow, in the toe. Between person to person, what do we have in common? That life, the force of life, lifeness. Okay, so that's something that everybody can, almost like like electricity. You have a mixer, and you have an electric car, and you have a heater, and you have a computer. Right? They all have in common electricity. Okay, an inner power. Okay. That's an idea the idea of the life force in each person that we can relate to as being God's unity of God in the entire creation. Okay, so let's continue. Now he's going to take it to another step completely. He says, 1 second. V'hine, and behold, I'm on the second paragraph. Right, but since the Torah, which is God's will and wisdom, and the mitzvahs, which is God's commands, God's will, they emanated from God's essence. Shuhu achdus amiti, that's the only true unity in everything. Okay, God's unity is the only true unity. That when a person fulfills one commandment, listen to what we're saying now. But when a person fulfills one commandment, everybody just think about one commandment that you like to do, or that you don't like to do it, but you do it. Some people, make kiddush, and some people put on tefillin, and some women light candles, and some people, their mitzvah is to honor their parents, okay? And some people, their mitzvah is to give tzedakah, to give charity. Everybody think now about one mitzvah that you do, that when you do that mitzvah, you do it with love, and you do it with the vekut, with attachment to God, and you do it with, now here's the main thing, with no pnios. There's nothing for you in it. When a person does it completely for God, I'm doing it just because God said so. Okay, I don't have any pleasure from it, or even if I have pleasure from it, I put that pleasure aside. I'm doing it just because God said. And by the way, if you don't have, if you don't relate to what I'm saying, you have to try it. Pick one commandment. Sometimes it might even require going against my own sensitivities, okay? And do that just because God commanded it. And I'm doing it because because I love you, God. And I'm doing it because I want to attach myself to you. And I'm not letting any other side things come into it. It could be, you could think about in terms of a spouse. or a child. Sometimes they ask you to do something you don't relate to it, but because you're so connected to them and you love them so much, you do it, even though it's your head or your body might not be there. Okay, take that and transfer it into doing one of the commandments. Okay, and so what does he say when a person does one of the commandments? And he says again, b'dveikus u'ba'ava, right? First, he said, like mitzvah achas, when a person does even one mitzvah, al machayna, machon from the word, all of its details, right? Tochen, its content, u'ba'ava, and with love for God, right? And without any personal, not doing it because it's for me or I'm going to benefit it from some way. And which is called, that's called devekus, that I'm attaching myself completely to the Almighty. The typhus, the mitzvah, and when, because I'm doing this mitzvah, I'm literally holding on to one part of that God's unity. What does he say in Cain? Right? It's like you're doing all the commandments. If a person does one commandment with total dvekut attachment, with total love, and not doing it for myself, I'm doing it because God commanded it. If a person can push away all of the mental distractions and all of the personal benefits, and I'm just doing this thing, the smallest thing, it could even be giving a coin to a poor person who asked for it, to a panhandler in the subway. If a person did that one commandment, like in that way, and it's like so he did all of the commandments together. And that's what it means, right? That a person has done even one part, one small aspect of this unity, he's connected to the entire unity together. Okay, and now I hope that was clear. And I just want to take it, okay? I want to explain it on a few different levels. Welcome, Aris. The first thing is, let's go back to the first line where it said, B'Shem Harishonim. The Ba'al Shem Tov said, in the name of the Rishonim, of the early scholars. So actually, Maimonides says that. Maimonides says if you do one mitzvah completely, like we said, it's like as though you're doing you're connected completely to God's unity. You have fulfilled your purpose in the world. And not only does the Rambam say it, Rambam, who was the master legalist, literally a Talmud of Aristotle in terms of logic, not of spirituality, but in terms of logic. Maimonides modeled himself after Aristotle. But not only that, the same exact thing is said by the Zohar, by the first textbook of Kabbalah that had all the secrets of the Torah that was written down by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his students after 2 generations after the destruction of the Second Temple, and it was revealed in Spain 500 years ago. Okay. So not only the greatest legalist, but also the greatest spiritual document says the same thing, that when a person does one mitzvah completely, it's like he did all of the commandments together. Okay, so now, so the question is, so what does Maimonides say? Then why do we need so many commandments? Why do we need 613 commandments? 248 positive commandments and 365 negative commandments. Why do we need 613? Levi is asking this question right now. If by doing one mitzvah completely, you're like you did all the commandments, then why do you need 613 commandments? And the answer that Maimonides gives, we're going to not stop there, but I'm just going to say what his answer is that because it's so hard to do a mitzvah completely that way, that with 613 commandments, it says where a person is bound to fulfill one commandment in the fullest and the most complete way. That's what Maimonides says, and that's what the Zohar says. Okay, there's another opinion. Okay, and that is the Lubavitcher Rebbe says. Then why did we need so many commandments for? Okay, again, the first opinion is because by hook or crook with 613 commandments, a person is bound to fulfill at least one commandment properly in his lifetime, and therefore he goes straight to Gan Eden, to heaven. Okay. No. Another opinion is, okay, is that when you do one command, it says this is how the Lubavitch Rebbe explains it. It says Isaac b'mitzvah patam min mitzvah. It's very interesting. It says when a person is doing one mitzvah, if you're involved in honoring your parents, or you're marrying off a child, or you're putting on tefillin, technically when a person is doing that one commandment, he's pater. He's absolved from doing all the other commandments. Because why? Because if toises b'ksaso toises b'kulo, if a person is doing one mitzvah, he's grasping only one part of God's unity. He's grasping all of the unity. He doesn't have to do any other mitzvah because he's totally there. He's in front of the king. When he is honoring his parents, or putting on tefillin, or lighting Shabbos candles, or not doing any of the negative commandments, he's literally standing in front of the king, and so there's nothing. He doesn't have to do anything else. That's the other opinion. That's what it means that when a person does one piece, he's doing all of it. Okay, so then one of my teachers, Rabbi Elik Friedman, he called me up especially this morning to tell me another opinion. He says. Why are there so many commandments, really? Right? If God wanted us to fulfill the commandments, to be completely attached to God and to do it with complete love and without any ulterior motives, then let him give us 10 commandments, not 613. It would have been much easier to focus on doing 10 commandments or even one commandment. And the answer, he says, is that because when a person does all of the commandments that he can do, that we're actually revealing a different aspect of God in each of those commandments. Okay, so those are the two extremes, right? That God gave us a lot of commandments. Why? That we should be for sure and fulfill at least one in a complete way, and then straight to Gan Eden, straight to heaven. The other opinion is that by the more commandments that we do, each one is revealing a different facet in our love to God, in our attachment to God, right? Lighting Shabbos candles is one way that I express my love. And putting on tefillin is another way that I express my love, right? And honoring my parents is a third way that I and teaching my children Torah is the fourth way that I express my love. Each time I do a mitzvah with total abandon, without any ulterior motives, with total dveikus, with true love, to the best of my ability, okay, that means that I'm revealing another facet of God in the world. And connected, I want to tell, that's the first piece. We're running behind schedule. You guys are letting me go on too much, but I'm going to tell you a story, an unbelievable story that I just saw. The story is of a person, of a soldier. There was a particular period after the Yom Kippur War, where the Rebbe encouraged many soldiers who were injured in battle to be brought to America. The Rebbe, they would take. Anyway, one of the things that the Israeli government did when there was a soldier that was injured, disabled in any way, they would give them certainly special financial subsidies. They created centers for them, rehabilitation centers, and they also took them on trips around the world, okay, to other communities, that they should become spokespeople for the Jewish people, because they are the biggest heroes, okay. The Rebbe said once that because God saw how strong they were, because they were injured, and God knew they wouldn't lose their incredible power, and that's why they have to be spokesmen for the entire Jewish people. And so many hundreds of disabled soldiers, disabled veterans were brought to the Rebbe for personal audience. So there's one story. There's many stories, but there's one story that I just saw. That was that a person came to the Rebbe all the fingers on his left hand had been blown off from a landmine, except his thumb. The Rebbe asked him if he put on tefillin, and the man said, "I can't put on tefillin. I don't have any fingers." And one of the mitzvahs of tefillin is supposed to wrap the strap around your middle finger. I guess it's the middle finger. Okay. So the Rebbe said, no. In your case, if you wrap the tefillin around your thumb, you're supposed to wrap the tefillin around your thumb. So the man, not in an arrogant, chutzpahdik way, he said, but Rabbi, I understood that the mitzvah was to wrap it on your middle finger. Why? How can I drop it around my thumb? And the Rebbe thought for a minute and looked at him and said this. And I hope I'm going to. I don't want to repeat it. I want it to be understood the first time. That the Medrash says, Medrash is a commentary on the Torah, and it says in the Medrash, it says Medrash Tilim is where it says it. It says that every mitzvah that the Jewish people do, God also does. God doesn't command us to put on to do any commandment that He doesn't do Himself. The place where Rashi actually brings it is when God wanted to destroy the Jewish people. We're going to have it in 2 weeks in the Torah portion. God wanted to destroy the Jewish people because of the sin of the golden calf. And Moses said, to erase me from your book if you're going to destroy the Jewish people. And God relented. And Moses understood it was a time of goodwill from heaven. And so he asked God to see his face. And God told Moses, nobody can see my face and live. Seeing the face is like being in heaven already, and you're still alive, right? But if you go into this crevice, I'll let you see my back, right? And it says that Moses went to the crevice, and he came out, and he saw, what did he see? The knot of the head tefillin at the back of God's head. Okay, wow. So we know for sure that just the way the Jewish people put on tefillin, God puts on tefillin. And by the way, it's true of every commandment. Just like the women cook for Shabbos, God cooks for Shabbos. And just like women light Shabbos candles, God cooks. And just like every single mitzvah that we do, God does. Okay, but the example that the Torah gives is putting on tefillin. So the man asked, but Rabbi, how can I fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin if I don't have a middle finger? And the Rebbe said that when you wrap the strap around your thumb, believe me, God is wrapping his tefillin around his middle finger. What does that mean? It means it's not that God is wrapping his tefillin when this injured person, when this disabled person wraps his tefillin around his thumb. You might think that the Rebbe is going to say that God's also wrapping it around his thumb. No, God's not telling this person that he's disabled. God is saying to this person that you are complete. When you do the best you can and wrap the tefillin around your thumb, I, God, am showing your completion, that you are as though you were wrapping it around your middle finger by my wrapping it around my middle finger. Okay, I hope that was clear. If it's not clear, ask me a question. And I'm saying it's the same idea with this idea of the mitzvahs. Each of us has to do the best we can. There are untold obstacles, so many obstacles. But if we try and we do the best we can, and we said it, with love and abandon for the Almighty, and with dvekut, attachment, and we're doing it for God's sake and not for my sake, and we're not doing it because we have any ulterior motives. If we can just try to get to that place, right? Even it might not be, it might be limited in some way, because all of us are limited, okay? And all of us are unlimited also, okay? That when we do that, then God will relate to it, even though the person with only one finger had to wrap the chaps around his thumb. When he wrapped it around his thumb, then God wrapped it around his middle finger. Okay, that's that. Any questions?
I have something to say.
Let's, Valerio, yes.
The secret of unity is the most important of all, because every time we are faced in our life with the secret of unity. An example, when we read the Tanya, the three upper Sephirot has to be harmonized and coordinated with the seven lower.
Right.
We should recognize the unity of the 10 Sephirot, but still, often we are in opposition. We have our seven midot in opposition with our brain, with our circle, with our intellect. So that's a part of the secret of unity. We are 3 plus 7, and we have to harmonize our brain with our midot.
Okay, I would say it. I hear you exactly. Okay, we're not actually giving a class now in the 10 Sirot. That's in 2 weeks. We're going to have a big class in the 10 Sirot. But I want to say that what you're saying and what I hear so much is a person, God is in the details. Right? And that's exactly what we learned here. That when you grab part of it, you grab all of it. Okay, a person shouldn't think that only because he's only getting part of it, even a part of a mitzvah, even a detail of a mitzvah. But if he does it with completely, he's got all of God's unity all together. Like if a person uses his intellect, right? Like Valeria said, right? We have 10 different sirot, intellect and emotions. Okay, and when we use part of it, we have to connect with all the different aspects. They say, Valeria, you listening? When the mitzvah is to pray with a quorum. If a person can possibly pray with a group of 10 other Jewish men, okay, there's even a value to a woman praying with a group of, because she can answer to all the holy Kaddish and Kedusha. There's all different parts of the communal prayer that a person can't do by themselves. But other than that, the woman doesn't have the mitzvah to pray with a quorum. But a man does, right? A woman is not commanded to things that are mitzvahs that are bounded in time. Okay, she has to pray shacharis and morning prayers and afternoon prayers, but she doesn't have to pray with a minyan because that's something that's fixed in. It's a mitzvah in time. It has to be done. Morning prayers are in the morning, and afternoon prayers in the afternoon. Evening prayers are in the evening. And a woman is patur. She's not obligated in it. Okay. Let's say a person can't pray. Can't pray with a minyan for whatever reason. Okay, he doesn't live in a town where there is a minyan, or he has to work and the work doesn't allow him to be with the quorum. So a person, what do we do? A person prays with the 10 powers of their soul. If a person prays with all 10 powers of the soul, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, kindness, judgment, and compassion, netzach hod yisod, eternity, glory, foundation, and kingship. If a person uses all of those 10 attributes, it's like he's praying with a quorum, his own quorum, his quorum of 10. Okay, anybody else want to share something? Okay, so we're going now. So we're moving on to 111b. Okay, so what do we speak about first? A person grasps a little bit of God's unity. He grasps all of it. Okay, and if when a person does that, he's literally he's fulfilling his purpose in the world. Okay, or he's connecting to every different aspect of God with all the different commandments, one way or the other. Okay, but when you grasp a little bit of it, grasp all of it. Now we're going to do the next section. You can look inside. Okay, but we just said that the whole starting to tomorrow night is the month of Adar, is 2 months of Adar, when a person is supposed to increase in joy and happiness every day, and thereby nullify, eradicate all the negative things in our lives. Okay, so right. What about when a person just you have a happy thought came to us? What about a fresh donut? What about what about a beautiful picture? Okay, what happens when a person has something happy happen to them that's not connected with holiness? Okay, we just said, that a person has served Hashem with happiness. What happens if something happy just happens? You hear a good joke, right? What's the good joke? It says Shmera was sleeping and his mother comes to wake him up, right? Shmera, you have to get up, and you have to go to shul. And he says, I don't want to get up. Shmera says, I don't want to get up. And Shmuel says, you must get up. Stop being silly. You have to get up right now. And Shmuel says, no, mommy, I'm not getting up. And she says, you have to. So Shmuel says, give me one reason why I have to get up. And Shmuel says, and the mother says, why? Because it's Shabbos and you're the rabbi of the shul. Did I say it right? Right? That's the joke, guys. Hello? Did I say the joke? Levi, did I say the joke properly? I did. Then how come nobody laughed? Is there a reason? Can I not hear anybody?
No, I put it on mute. I laughed, Rabbi.
Okay, Beseda. Okay, so now the question is, thank you very much, Ivan. At least I'm okay. I appreciate it. I'm sure that Daniel Fliegel laughed also, because right, and Shandel Marantz. I'm sure whoever laughed. Okay, so the point is, what happens when something just happy happens? Again, we said that the month of Adar is supposed to be supposed to marbim b'simcha. We have to increase in happiness, right? Everything we have to do it with happiness, meaning Jewish things. Okay, what happens when a person just has something happy that happens? No, okay, what do you do then? So look what he says. He says, when something happy happens, it's not connected to something Jewish. It's just life. Okay, a person, a good joke or a good donut or something that made you happy. Okay. So what does it have to do? Why did God make it? Why did God do that? Why did he, if we spoke about it so many times, when something negative happens, it's called lahamtik hadinim b'shorsham, to sweeten the judgments in their source. A person has to think this is really a good thing, and he has to think how something good is going to come out of it, and he has to think about it in a positive way, and he has to transform the negative to positive. That's the challenge of the Jewish person. What happens when something positive happens?
Amen.
But it's not connected to something holy. It's a good joke. or whatever. Everybody can think of what makes them happy. Okay, so what are you supposed to do? So he says, Yidbak b'simcha yisborach. You have to connect it to something spiritual. Okay, it sounds so weird, but it's so true. Okay, you have to say why, right? Because everything, all the happiness comes from heaven, from below to above. Okay, everything happy. God only wants good for the world, only wants good for the Jewish people. Happiness pours in from on high. When something in this world that happens that makes me happy, I have to connect it to something spiritual. To connect it to some, I feel happy. That God opened up a conduit for me. I a little bit of my soul. Somebody I love was thinking about me. Something, you have to connect it to some spiritual truth. And then he completes the cycle. God pours energy from on high into the world. And when we take something in this world and we connect it to the spiritual, we're sending the energy back up from God from above to below, and the Jewish people from below to above. And therefore we're paying God back for all the things that he does for us. Okay. So the next time something geschmack happens, the next time something that's positive, say, you know what? Thank you, God. I have gratitude for all the things that you give me, okay? And you connect it to you take it and maybe keep a coin in your pocket and I'm going to give this coin for charity now with even more happiness. When you see somebody in the street, you smile at them just because you want to share the goodness. You want to make the world into a happy place, right? You take that happy thing. Again, donuts or whatever. I keep thinking about donuts. What makes me happy? A good joke. Right? It could be sitting with a few friends around the fireplace and just feeling, how many blessings I have. Connect that feeling to God. Okay? Take the energy that God sent from above to below and send from below to above. Okay, that's the second one. What time is it? Oh my gosh, 9:58. 1 second, let me just see. Okay, I'm not going to do the third one. I don't have a translation for it anyway, and it's very complicated. It's about negative thoughts. What do you do with negative thoughts? It's revolutionary. The Ba'al Shem Tov's what he teaches here about negative thoughts, about why does a negative thought come to us, and what can we do about it. We're going to leave that for next week. Okay, right now I'm going to tell two stories about the Ba'al Shem Tov. Okay, two stories that one is about happiness. That they says that once it was one of the customs. Well, first of all, I'm going to stop. Any questions about either of the first two things that we learned? The first one we studied, when a person grasps part of it, he's grasping all of it. It's such a mind-blowing thing. When a person does one mitzvah and he does it the way he's supposed to do it, he's literally plugged into the infinite. He is totally with God. He opened up the channel for himself to go straight to heaven, okay? And the more mitzvahs he does, the more facets of God, of the infinite, atzmuso, mahuso, God's essence, and his and all, and omnipotence, he connects to all of it, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing we learned is when something positive happens in this world, we have to connect it to something spiritual, because God sends energy from above to below, and we have to, what's the divine providence? Why did God make us feel happy? Because he wants us to connect to something spiritual, to bring more spirituality into the world. It says that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said it in a beautiful way. He said God makes from ayin, from nothing, God makes the physical world. Everybody, if you're sitting at a table, shake the table. Okay, God went from total nothingness into total physicality. And what's a Jewish person's job? To take that physicality and to return it back to spirituality. Okay, so when something positive happens to us, we take it and connect to something spiritual. Okay, that's the two things that we learned. Any questions? But I'm not that good a teacher, guys. I'm not. You're just holding back.
I have a question.
Okay, Lisa, please.
I've read the story about the Ba'al Shem Tov, who for praying went in the woods, lit a fire, meditated, and then did a prayer. And everything he wanted to happen happens. And I thought about that maybe it's even about our preparation, approaching mitzvah, not only doing it, but being prepared for doing them.
Absolutely. And I'm going to now, thank you very, very much. I'm going to actually tell a story about that. That it says it's a very beautiful story. It said there was a Rebbe. There's a shul in Tzfas. What's it called? Chotkov. There's a Chotkov shul in Tzfas that the Chotkov Rebbe sent Chassidim to Tzfas 200 years ago to open a shul there. So the first Rebbe of Chotkov, once a person came to him on a holiday, but he was so consumed and obsessed with the problem that he had that he waited to push himself into the Rebbe's room, and he wanted to beg the Rebbe to give him a blessing when the Rebbe was in the high spirits, okay, because he thought that was his best chance to get out of his problem. And the Rebbe said, "You're making a mistake. You should go out and celebrate with the Chassidim." And I'm going to tell you why. That one of the customs is that it's actually, on a certain level, the completion of all of the Yom Kippur prayers is after Yom Kippur. It's a tradition to do the ceremony called Kiddush Levana. Kiddush Levana is once a month. The people sanctify the moon. The moon is compared to the Jewish people. We go by a lunar calendar, as I said before. The first sliver of the new moon appears on Monday evening. So the Jewish people compared to the moon, because just like the moon, the sun is here today and gone tomorrow. That's the nations of the world. The Jewish people are like the moon. The moon wanes and waxes. It gets smaller and get bigger, but it never disappears completely. The Jewish people will never disappear completely. It's a promise that God made. So we do what's called Kiddush Levana, sanctifying the moon. We look at the moon once and we say a certain blessing that really is about the Jewish people and the connection to the moon. That's the thing. So really, it's the last ceremony of Yom Kippur. In other words, you fasted all day. There's Ne'ilah, the last prayer, the fifth level of the soul, and then the Yom Kippur, and then the Yom Kippur ends on a big high, and then whether you eat something or don't eat something first, you daven the evening prayers, a regular weekday evening prayers, and then the next thing to do is called Kiddush Levana. So the Shetkova Rebbe is telling this person, I'm telling you that there's this story that once it was after Yom Kippur, and the moon was hidden by clouds. And the Ba'al Shem Tov knew that was a spiritual sign that if the Jewish people were not able to fulfill the mitzvah of the sanctification of the moon, it was a sign that a terrible negative decree was not averted from the Jewish people, and it was going to bring terrible tragedy and sadness on the whole Jewish world. And he was fighting with all of his intellect, just like Valeria said before, with his intellect and his emotions. He's using every molecule of his atom of his being to try to push away the clouds and reveal the moon so that the Jewish people could say the blessing on the moon. And he was not succeeding, and he kept sending messengers out from his room to see if the moon was being revealed or not. And meanwhile, the Chassidim, there were hundreds of Chassidim there that had been there for Yom Kippur, and they didn't know about this struggle that the Ba'al Shem Tov was going through, and they were dancing because they were so certain that God was going to answer their prayers after Yom Kippur. They were dancing in circles, and more people were joining, and it was becoming more and more filled with chayas, filled with energy. And at some point, they pushed into the Rebbe's room, and they're dancing around and around the Ba'al Shem Tov, right? And he's still completely immersed in trying to use his mental and physical powers to uncover the moon. And at some point, the Chassidim asked the Rebbe to please dance with them. And they lift him up on their shoulders and they break out into the courtyard, and they're complete ecstasy after the holidays. And just then, the clouds uncovered from the moon. And they all said the sanctification of the moon ceremony. And the Ba'al Shem Tov explained that what he couldn't accomplish, what he couldn't accomplish with his spiritual powers and his avodah, his service to God, with all of every inch of his being that he was trying to, what he couldn't accomplish, the Chassidim accomplished with their joy. Okay, so you said, that's I'm responding to what you said, Lisetta. It's about preparation, but not just about preparation. Preparation with like we said before, right? Because you just want to connect to the Almighty. You can't do it every minute of every day, but pick one day a week, one mitzvah. Take 5 minutes or 10 minutes where you're pushing everything else away, and we're just doing this thing just for God. Enjoy, with love, with attachment, without any ulterior motives. Right? And will change the whole world. Okay, that's one story. There's a second story to the other extreme. Okay, the other extreme, the story is about there was a person who was dying. He was dying. And the doctor said, forget it. They didn't say, I'm sorry, that sounds so coarse. There were doctors there and they said, we are not able to heal you. Okay, and then in the Ba'al Shem Tov, one of his customs was like Abraham. He used to travel from place to place and to arouse Jewish people to higher levels of sensitivity to the spiritual truth. And he came to this town and the people begged him to please come talk to this person. Come see this person, maybe you can help him. And the Ba'al Shem Tov saw him and he immediately told them to prepare a meaty soup for him and to eat the meaty soup. And the person was comatose already. And they pushed the soup into his mouth. And all of a sudden he came back to life and he was able to talk, right? And then the Ba'al Shem Tov talked to him and healed him. Okay, so the doctors came to the Ba'al Shem Tov afterwards and said, how did you do it? Okay, even then the doctors understood about the human body. He said that there were certain parts of his body that were just completely gone, and they were irreparable. How did you heal him? How were you able to heal him? And the Ba'al Shem Tov said like this. Second. He said there are 248 positive commandments, and there are 365 negative commandments. The 248 positive commandments are connected to the 248 limbs of the human body, limbs and organs. And the 365 negative commandments are connected to the sinews and blood vessels. 365, and by the way, we might have mentioned it before, but there is something, those numbers are very close to what the medical, what the Western medicine says are the number of, limbs and organs, and are the number of sinews and blood vessels. Okay, it's a real number. Okay, I actually looked into it before. I haven't done it for a while, but it's something that you can check it out yourselves. Okay, so when a person doesn't do a particular commandment, he cuts off the flow of energy to one of his organs. And when he doesn't do a lot of the commandments, he cuts off the energy to a lot of his organs. And when a person, God forbid, does a negative, it transgresses a negative commandment, then he also is blocking the blood, the spiritual actions are connected to our physical reality. Okay, so the Ba'al Shem Tov said that I made a deal with the soul of the person, right? That the soul agreed that the person was going to do tshuva. He was going to begin to fulfill the commandments in an appropriate way, and because of that, the divine energy flew into the organs of the person and corrected the blockages in the blood vessels and sinews, right? And the person came back to health. Okay, and so the same way that the teaching of that story is that a person has to realize always that the spiritual, the physical truths in our life are connected to spiritual truths. Okay, and that when a person works, I'm not a healer. I can't guarantee to anybody, God forbid, if they're ill, by doing tshuva. I can't do that. I'm not a tzaddik or a rabbi, but the point is, don't wait for that cataclysmic situation. If a person is consistently aware and tries to and relates negative things that happen in our day-to-day life with our spiritual lives, okay, in other words, we try to we take a hint that if something doesn't work out, whether it's in our work life or in our family life or something in our health, okay, and a person tries to correct the spiritual parts of their life, then God will find a way to help them correct and to repair and to bring back to health the physical parts of life. That's the teaching of that second story. Okay. All right, everybody. Any questions? For Valeria, thank you for speaking. And Ivan, thank you for speaking. And Lizette, thank you so much for speaking. No, anybody else? All of my friends.
I have a question.
Dara, yes.
Yeah, I noticed actually this Shabbat that the nosach, when you're like, because sometimes if you're davening, if you're doing a like a mishaberach for chole, or even
Right.
in the Tehillim parts of chole, so it's a different nosach for males and for females, and the one for males actually has the phrase corresponding it to the Ramach Avirav. What is it?
The Shasagidav, right.
Shasagidav.
Ramach, right. 248 and 365, right?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's the differences in anatomy. So what should we do though if we're doing it? Because it's, it has a one that says one for male and one for female. So what if we're doing it for many cholim? Then which nosach? How should we say the nosach?
Both. Say both nusachs. First say for the men, and then say, or first say for one, and then say for the other. That's what they do. That's what they do in every shul. They say both nusachs. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it should be said. In other words, it should be said.
Mishabeach, yeah. Say both nusachs. One for men and one for women, because each one has its own different conduit of energy.
Oh, so that's the basis of why they do it separately. Okay.
That's right, for sure. They do the same thing for mishaberach. They do the same thing for a chayla. It's always a different stuff for men and for women. Okay, because they have separate conduits. That's, I mean, or you can do like we do on Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. You can intersperse both, but it would be better. It's a different question, but it's really better just to say both different nusachs. Okay.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
All right. No. Okay, Beseda. So here we remember again. This is like from a kotzer, from one extreme to the other, right? That tonight and tomorrow is Erev Yom Kippur. Incredible, propitious time for doing tshuva, for thinking about how to repair my negative actions. Okay, pick a time to think about it and make positive resolutions for the future. And then come tomorrow night, Monday night, wow. Simcha poretz together. Happiness breaks through all the limitations. Just you're going to feel it when Adar comes in. Nichnas Adar marbim is simply. I can guarantee it. Just say those words. Nichnas Adar marbim b'simcha. When Adar comes in, we increase in happiness. Simcha poretz together. Simcha breaks through all of the limitations, all of the boundaries, right? Write it down, please. Again, two statements. When it gets evening tomorrow, you say these two things, and I'm going to say it for the third time. The first is shenichnes Adar marbim b'simcha. When Adar comes in, we increase in happiness. And number two, simcha poretz together. Happiness poretz from the pritzab, breaks through all of the boundaries, opens up all of the conduits. If you say those two things and make an effort to do things with happiness, you'll start off the first, like we said, Rosh Chodesh, we say it every week. Just why is it called the head of the month? Like the head controls the body, the head of the month controls the month. When a person starts the first days of Rosh Chodesh acting in a happy way, he'll find that it's easy for them to act in a happy way for the entire coming 60 days of Adar. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Valeria, good to see you. And you're in my screen, Valeria's top left, and Ivan, okay, and Kenmar and Kenny, and I don't know who Shane, maybe that's my daughter. This is my daughter, Chanashira. Welcome, Chanashira, and Dara, and Lisetta. right? And Chaya Liara and Lydia, so good to see you, or to see your name.
Sylvia says hi.
Hi, Sylvia.
I love that too.
Okay. Happy. And Karen and Daniel and Aris and Renata. Oh, Renata, my friend, and Regina and Lauren, all my special friends. Have a wonderful week. Okay. We're going from the Mishpatim. We're going from the laws of the Torah and the last segment of Matan Torah that was in last week's portion to the building of the Mishkan. We're going into building a dwelling place for God in the world. And how do we do that? By being happy. It says, Vasuli Migdash v'shachanti b'socham. The verse says, when you make for me a sanctuary, when you make yourself a sanctuary, God says, I will dwell within you. How do we make ourselves a sanctuary? By being happy in our fulfillment of the commandments. That's all.
Rabbi, may I just say one word? It's called satisfied. When we are satisfied, we are happy. In other words, when we're satisfied that we're connected to Hashem, we're satisfied with what it is. I think the key word for me is satisfied, where it's a peaceful, tranquil place to be.
Okay, but I don't know about you, but Ivan, how do you be satisfied? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. When a person, it's how do you, a satisfaction comes when a person used all of their strengths to achieve their goal, okay? And then, like a person who worked hard, they feel the satisfaction of what they accomplished. Satisfaction comes from effort, okay? I'm saying that to everybody. I'm saying it to myself, okay? You're right, Ivan. That satisfaction, right? That's what happiness is. Where does it come from? When a person he didn't hold back. When a person used their strength, okay? You know what? When he said the words of the prayers with intention, they were focused. When they pushed away the distractions to do a mitzvah, when they gave a little bit of extra money for tzedakah, right? They just didn't say, oh, I give everybody $1 or $50 or $10. You give a little bit extra because the person deserved it. When every time that a person pushes through that limitation, when we said simcha paretz keder, when a person pushes through all the limitations, that's the satisfaction that they want to experience. Okay, I have to go back to the wedding. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. Okay, and again, if anybody needs, Ivan, thank you. Anybody needs anything, we have our email or you have the group. Please don't hesitate to contact us, and otherwise we'll see everybody next week. I'm going to be after my Wednesday. I'm going in for my cataract operation, so I'll be able to actually give the shiur without taking off my glasses. I'm looking forward to it.
Do one eye at a time.
One eye at a time, right? I have. They're doing the worst one first. Shavua Tov, everybody. A good week, and my love to each and every one of you. Bye bye.
Shavua Tov.
Thank you.